supporting your local news, Air Park Canterbury, Logistics Drive and Parking Island off Rustley Road.
David, congratulations on all of your success. I want to start with your amazing children's books, which I think haven't they been translated into 50-something rather countries?
Yeah, like 50
languages rather.
Languages, yeah, 55 languages or something like that. I couldn't even name 55 languages.
No,
but I often send the books in like Arabic and Chinese and stuff, and I just love the more different they look to, the English versions, the more excited I get. I mean, it's a very weird thought that kids in China are reading Gangster Granny. I mean, it just sort of blows your mind. And sometimes you're told, oh, yeah, it's been really successful here or there, and you can't fathom it. But it's very pleasing.
Doesn't that suggest that the humour or your writing is truly universal? And did you do that on purpose? Did you think, right, I'm going to write a book that is so universal, people in China will laugh and the kids will love it?
No, I don't think you can think like that, really. I mean, I actually think if you tried to do that, probably it would backfire. I just sort of write what I think is entertaining, what I think is exciting, what I think might be funny. And then the guess is if your sort of instincts are sort of, strong, I suppose there's a chance that other people might like it as well. But I think if you start thinking too much about your audience, it kind of, you just get confused because all kids are different anyway, aren't they? What they like is different. But I just try and make my books as entertaining as possible. And so, I always think that stories need to be kind of have a big forward momentum, keep on, things are happening at the end of every chapter. There's a kind of cliffhanger, and then there's jokes throughout it and scary bits and all of that. And so I just think, I just want a book that a kid can't put down. That's what I want to write. A book that a kid just wants to keep reading and is told, come on, lights out now, you've got to go to sleep. And then they're reading it under the covers with a torch. That's what I hope my books, I hope that they have that effect.
I've seen in other interviews that you say, you're always writing, whether you're on the train, whether you're on a plane. Do you ever give yourself a chance just to breathe and to do nothing, perhaps just chill out with your dogs, or are you always on the lookout for new material?
Last night, 11 o'clock at night, I was still writing. I was writing a script and I was still writing it. I do like it. But yes, I'm a father to an 11-year-old son. I've got dogs. So yeah, we obviously do things that are, not to do with me being typing around a computer, and I really like that. But at the same time, I think if you're a creative person, you're creating characters and sketches and stories and all that, you're constantly looking around you for what could be the next idea, because you never know when it might come about. So, something, you're watching a movie and something sort of triggers in your brain. You go, oh, yeah, hang on, maybe that could be part of a story. Or you see someone in the street, you overhear a conversation. So, yeah, I'm not searching for it, but I'd say my antenna is up for something. And sometimes people just say, my son, we were walking around Regent's Park and he said, where we live in London, and he said, Daddy, wouldn't it be great if there was a monster which was made up of all the other monsters in the world? And I said, what could it be called? He went, Mega Monster. And I thought, wow, that's such a great idea. I have to write that down. And I ended up turning it into a book. So, it's, I think if you're creative, that you've always kind of got your antenna up in some way or another. But at the same time, of course, I do have relaxing times and I enjoy those too. Especially with my son.
Yeah, we're wanting royalties now that you've let that out of the bag.
He does want royalties, but I said, you'll get them one day. Don't worry about it. He's only 11.
You've been compared to Roald Dahl, your stories have. Some of his humour was quite dark, really, and a lot of his books, they weren't patronising, and like yours as well. They're not patronising books. Some of them are quite dark. Do you embrace that comparison?
Well, it's nice for me. It must be awful for him. He must be spinning in his grave. The thing I think that he did brilliantly is he didn't patronize his audience every time. He assumed that children can kind of understand quite sophisticated humor, that they could, within certain parameters, could be scared. They could understand quite complicated concepts as well at certain times. They're often full of kind of wisdom. There's in the Witches, when the boy is turned into a mouse and he knows he's not going to live very long. The grandma says it doesn't matter who you are or what you look like. All that matters is you're loved. I'm paraphrasing. He put it a lot better. But, I mean, that's like a big, big message, simple one, put brilliantly, and it's in the middle of a book about witches overtaking a kind of a hotel in in England. So so I think for me he's the gold standard. For me, it's like someone that I can learn from. I don't feel I'm like 1% as talented as him, but I definitely think if you have idols, it's like you kind of learn from them, don't you? And you study them and you learn from them. I guess it's like being an actor and kind of, you sort of look at Robert De Niro and you go, well, I'm never going to be Robert De Niro, but I can learn something from watching Robert De Niro. And so for me, he's an inspiration more than anything else.
Someone else who's an inspiration for you and also an inspiration for me, and I was lucky enough to meet him several times, Barry Humphries. I know he had a huge influence on your comedy career. Tell me about your interactions with him, because I was lucky enough to meet him as both Dame Edna and just Barry. And Barry was just a wordsmith. He was judgmental as anything. He knew. You'd walk down the street and he'd tell you a story about something historical and you felt dumb.
Well, he was unbelievably intelligent and erudite, wasn't he? Mm. But at the same time, he was always kind of pricking. I mean, he wasn't pompous anyway, but he was always constantly sort of undermining himself in a way. Like all the stories he told were stories kind of against himself, if you know what I mean. Like times when things went wrong, times when he was embarrassed. It was never about his triumphs. It was always he told stories about his failures, but in an hilarious way. And I met him as both, and it was the most exciting thing because he was the reason I wanted to be a comedian, really, because I got to see him live on stage when I was a teenager. And, I knew I wanted to do comedy, but I couldn't work out. I was like, well, I can't be. Much as I enjoyed stand-up comedians, I had no sense that I could be a stand-up comedian because I don't know, I just didn't feel any instinct for that whatsoever. But once you have a character and once you that character can say outrageous things. It just felt to me so thrilling to watch him, and then get to know him was one of the great pleasures of my life because he didn't disappoint, and it wasn't like, oh well, Dame Edna's really funny, but Barry's very serious in real life and is a bit of a bore. He was in a way more entertaining, and you realised when you got to know him that so much of Barry was in Edna, but also. I miss the, sometimes I miss the, he could just be so, he had this great game, didn't he? He kind of insult people, but then say, I mean that in a caring way, darling. And
yes. Or he would give a very disapproving look to somebody he probably didn't like all that much, but he would do it in a comedic way to pretend that he sort of liked them, but he didn't really. So he could get away with his just that look he would give people, that sort of, you're an idiot kind of look.
Yeah, it was. He played this kind of just amazing game the whole time, and that's why he was like the ultimate chat show guest, really. Because Dame Edna, because you just were like, he's going to insult the host, but not in a way that's ever hurtful or anything like that. It's just sort of playful, and so people queued up to be on his chat show. To be insulted. And they loved it, didn't they? Because it was like, they knew it would be really wittily done. And so, I mean, that's one of the most amazing things if you get to work in the industry that we're in, sometimes you get to meet your heroes. And he was one hero that did not disappoint in any way, shape or form. And so I think back to all those dinners and lunches and times we hung out together and feel so grateful that I that they happened. And so I'll never forget the time I spent with him, and it was just best thing in my life. And it's very sad thinking back, to the last time I ever saw him, and he was so on form, but he had a quick decline, and he was in his late 80s, but he's left behind an incredible legacy of work.
He really has.
Yeah.
Do you feel society, David, has become less open to humour compared to, the early 2000s when you launched the likes of Little Britain. And I point to things now where you're probably aware of this. There are so many Little Britain clips now that you can see on the likes of TikTok, and it almost feels like it's a protest against the safe world we live in today. There are so many funny clips that it's almost being introduced to a new generation.
Well, you're not offended by anything, are you?
No, I love it.
No,
I love everything.
Do you know anyone who's offended by humour?
No.
I mean, I don't.
No.
I know people who don't like certain things. Like my mum, me and my son watched Austin Powers, and my mum didn't like it. But it's like, well, it doesn't really matter, does it? She doesn't have to watch it again. It's interesting because the shows have really given me a sense that these shows, like live shows I've been doing, it's really given me a sense actually just people really want to laugh, and they completely understand that comedy is playful. And the fact that all the clips are being shared and by young people, and young people are like, have been watching Little Britain and Come Fly With Me, and they just think it's funny. I think there's just obviously a lot of sensitivity, but I think the problem is, and John Cleese said this, and I thought it was very true. He said, if you take it literally, if you take comedy completely literally, then you are going to find fault with it. I mean, I think about 40 Towers as like, there's a scene. If I told you, this man, he runs a hotel and he has an immigrant working for him as a waiter, and this immigrant can't speak English. And there's the guy who owns that is so frustrated with him, he hits him hard over the head with a spoon. You think, it doesn't sound funny. But when you watch it in 40 Towers, it's the funniest thing you've ever seen. Him bashing Basil Fawlty bashing Manuel over the head with a spoon. And so I kind of, if you take it all literally, if you think that every joke that a comedian makes is somehow their actual point of view, if you don't understand that things are playful, and a kind of really good comedian, and I'm not talking about myself here because I'm just not.
Don't be modest.
No, but I mean a really skilled stand-up is what I mean to say. A really skilled stand-up, can sort of deal with any taboo subject, and we kind of need to deal with taboo subjects in comedy. It's a relief of pressure, isn't it? When someone talks about something that's happening, and the interesting thing is the jokes that people share, privately, are much more edgy than we might admit. And I mean, when Donald Trump got shot in the ear, I don't know if you were looking online, but loads and loads of jokes about it. There was the famous Van Gogh self-portrait, done as Donald Trump with his ear in a bandage and stuff like that. So it's like, I don't know. I just feel like it's the sort of the fear of offending someone is really it doesn't really get you anywhere. And then I think it's going round
in circles, though, David. I think we're coming back to a time where we can have a laugh.
I agree.
At somebody else's expense. I mean, I've got to ask this question because it's. I can't believe I'm even saying this. Like 20 years since the show was broadcast, I suppose. But if I hear the name Linda, I immediately think of Martin. It's Linda. And so does my mother, and we start laughing to each other. And I had a friend the other day that'd never heard of Little Britain, and I was trying to convey how funny that skit was, and he didn't. He was like, "What?" But I had to show him first so he could understand. I've got a mug that says "Have a bit of dust," and honestly, I feel like I need it at this time because I can't stop eating. So it's just, come on, fatty. I mean, I don't think that.
Well, it was all playful, and none of it was ever done with any sort of bad intentions, and. And people are still laughing at it. So it's just this. I think it's like we shouldn't think everyone has to be kind of nannied as well. And some things, I mean, it isn't unique to comedy, but some things set out to be quite offensive, and it's quite fun being offensive. Do you know the photographer Robert Mapplethorpe, who did American Photographer, who did these very extreme sexual pictures? I mean, he knew that they were going to going to offend some people, and it was exciting. When the Sex Pistols wrote God Save the Queen, they knew and brought it out the week of the Queen's Silver Jubilee. They knew that they were going to shock and offend people, and it was exciting. When Monty Python do the always look on the bright side of life, people on the cross, they knew that people were going to find it offensive, and that's one of the things that's brilliant about it, is that you're shocked. And being shocked is actually exciting.
I mean, I can't believe it now in this day and age now. I mean, one of my other favourite show of all time is The Muppet Show. And I went to watch an episode the other night on Disney Plus, and it comes up with a warning saying some of these themes are dated. Please don't be offended. And I thought, The Muppet Show, of all things.
I know, and also
I mean, you know, it is a bit ridiculous now.
Well, I do think it's a bit odd, isn't it? Because I mean, who was going to read that and switch it off?
Well,
I mean, you'd just be intrigued to know what it is.
Well, it made me want to watch it even more, and I still couldn't figure out what I was supposed to be offended by. Hey, just briefly, we need to cut this short because I know you've got other things to do. You've got several shows coming to New Zealand, one for kids, one for adults. I hope you don't get the audiences mixed up. For the adults, what can we expect from your shows, David?
Well, so the family show is about my books called the David Walliams Book Show, and that's on a sort of a matinee in the afternoon, and that's just me with entertaining the kids, telling them about stories, reading from them, getting the kids involved in various games and stuff like that. So it's really fun because I wanted to do something just for the kids because otherwise I had a vision of sort of 8-year-olds being led out of my grown-up show in tears. And then the grown-up show is about the things you've been talking about that you like, Little Britain, Come Fly With Me, Britain's Got Talent, all my funny stories, lots of stuff about Barry Humphries, who I love, lots of clips we've never seen before, and a chance for the audience to ask me anything at all. And that's when you get the really funny stuff. Because the best thing is when people insult you. Like I had this girl say, yeah, I'm 21. My mum bought the tickets for the show, but then she couldn't come in the end. So I've got a question, David. Who are you?
And I remember I saw your answer, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. That annoyed me. I thought, oh, you tosser! Don't come to a show and ask the guest star who you are.
Funny.
But did you not think? Oh, you're a dick.
No, I thought it was funny, and I thought it was a gift. The thing is that what people like to see most when they see someone like, well known on stage, is seeing them taken down a peg or two. So the insulting questions are the best one. And I share letters in the show from kids, and I only share the ones which are in some way kind of, not exactly insulting, but they sort of put me in my place. There's one great letter I got from a kid that said, "Dear David Walliams, I'm writing to you because you're my second favourite author. My favourite author is J.K. Rowling, but my teacher said not to write to her. She obviously receives too many." So it's like things like that are great. They're really funny. And so, there's Steve Martin said a great thing. He says the best joke is the one played on yourself. And I think there's a lot to be learned by that. So I like it. So if you're coming along to the show, do feel free to come along and insult me.
Okay. I'll make a note of it. David Walliams, it's really nice to speak with you. Thank you so much for your time.
Nice to see you.
And congratulations on your success.
Oh, thank you. So you'll be coming to the show and we'll meet.
Mum and I are coming to your show and we cannot wait.
Okay.